All right, we're off the edge. It's episode 4. I'm Jake Ellenbogen. He is Cameron Lynch. You're coming to us a week before the NFL draft on a Thursday. And man, the NFL draft is like Christmas for me. I think you know how much it matters to me, Cam, but it's a big deal, you know, and especially, you know, when you see these teams that are trying to get out of this constant motion of being irrelevant, essentially. So it's their opportunity to kind of push out of the darkness, if you will, the dark age, and try to find a gold age, you know. So
there you go.
So yeah, I mean, how you doing, my guy?
Man, I'm hyped about Q's, man. We got some guys in the draft this year,
dogs.
So some dogs, and then I know you did a lot of work on them too. So I'm excited to talk about them and and see where this goes.
Absolutely. Before we get into that, be sure to subscribe, like, comment, rate, review wherever you get this show. And we're going to dive into betonline.ag ad read here. So they're your number one source for all your basketball info, stats, news, and scores. Get the latest odds and lines, including the latest player reports for this year's pro basketball playoffs. BetOnline is always your sports information headquarters this season as we continue. We covered for all your sports wagering needs: basketball, MLB, NHL hockey, right to UFC, and boxing. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to get your betting info, including live betting options and your favorite casino and card games you can play right from your home. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to get in on the action. Be sure to use our promo code Bleav to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline.ag, where the game starts. So Cam, we start always with the burning question, and this is going to be completely different than what we normally do because it's going to be a long burning question.
Okay.
So both of us here, who are your top 3 sleeper prospects at quarterback, running back, and wide receiver? Because right now the NFL draft is hot. So we're going to go through, we'll go through each one. It's going to be probably the most organized burning question of all time. Probably. So let's start with quarterbacks. If you want to just let them rip, throw out your 3 or go one by one, up to you.
Yeah. No, I'll throw out mine, Jake, and then I'll get your thoughts on it. Then we can chop it up and we'll just go one by one. We'll go
Sounds
through six guys and see how it happens. But my first guy that I got up right now for my sleeper is Clayton Tune from Houston. One thing I know about Mr. Tune is he has that C on his jersey, that captain, Jake. And I know we always talk about it. You can call me Captain Cam at this point because I love a good captain. But, when it comes to Mr. Tune, I saw his measurables at the draft, and those things were looking kind of nice, my guy. It was looking kind of nice. He had a great vert, a great 40. He could run the football, and I like what I see there with Mr. Tune. So that's my sleeper there. And he's a great receiver to throw the ball to. And he's going to be my other sleeper when we get to the wide receivers here. But Tune is my sleeper when it comes to the draft. He threw for 4,000 yards, 40 touchdowns, only 10 interceptions. So, big guy, 6'3", 220. You can't beat that. He's going to be healthy. He's going to be in the pocket. He knows how to evade the pass rush. And I know, too, he tied for 3rd in passing touchdown. So, Case Keenum came out of Houston, so he set the precedent for quarterbacks at Houston. Those guys know how to throw that football. And he's big and physical, so he's gonna, like I said, he's gonna be able to take some of those hits and stay healthy. He's my guy, Clayton Tune, coming out of Houston.
Hey, he's somebody that is interesting. First off, I've known him for a while, not personally, but as you know, I'm a Kansas Jayhawk fan, and he originally committed to Kansas and transferred. So, or decommitted, one of those. But yeah, so Clayton Tune, got a chance to really dive into the film this year. I had about a 5th round grade on him. He's somebody that I think his decision making gets him into trouble. He needs to learn how to live to play another down. I do like his pocket presence, though. I like his quick release. I think, his mobility is something that, teams will look for. He doesn't have the best deep ball accuracy, but he's got a decent deep ball, and he had to because he had, who there, Tank Dell.
Yeah,
You,
Tank.
but he's a solid passer in the short and intermediate game. And he's, in my opinion, a day 3 quarterback that, yeah, he can be a sleeper because, this is somebody, if he goes to the right system, right coaching staff, they can get the most out of him, develop him.
Yep. I like Clayton Tune. And I'm going to go back to that vertical. I found the vertical number. Everman had a 37.5-inch vertical, Jake. So we talking about the running quarterback. We talked about it last week, quarterbacks being able to evade these defensive ends. And Tune can get that done. And you see when he has a dynamic receiver, he can get the ball to the receiver. His pocket presence is great. So I like him. I like Tune. And I'm looking forward to see what he does this year. My next guy, Jake, Max Duggan. I always want to say Max Dugan, right? He looks like a Dugan, but Max Duggan, I know he gets the Taysom Hill comparison. He has nothing but heart, nothing but dog in him. I know he was a Gatorade Player of the Year in high school. And one thing we talked about being a dog and having heart. I know he had some heart issues, I think around 2020. And I did see during some of the playoff games, the TCU fan base would do like the skeleton, like the X-ray, and then like have like the dog where the heart is. And they put for Max, they put the frog where the heart was. So I thought that was cool. But he's a fighter. I know when they played Kansas State in the playoff games, he brought them back at the end of the game, and just to see his will. I know he was hurt. And he can pretty much fight through anything. So to see the way he plays, the fact that he gets the Taysom Hill comparison, that says it all right there, Jake. I mean, Taysom Hill, he has my utmost respect. I think I told you about my experiences coming across Taysom Hill on the Bleav in Rams podcast. Taysom Hill can do it all. He can block punts, return punts, throw the football, run the football. He can do it all. And I do think Max Duggan can be similar in that way. I always want to call him Dugan, but it's Duggan. And I do think he can be a great sleeper here in this draft.
Yeah, so I actually I compared him to Taysom Hill. I think he's somebody I would never rule him out becoming a starter. But I think right now he is a developmental day 3 with a gigantic name. A guy that I kind of thought back in the day, Tim Tebow. But Tebow went in the first round and kind of shocked everybody because I don't think many expected that. Looking at him, a true college quarterback, you can look at that as bad or good, depending. I think the accuracy was all over the place. I don't think he's got great arm strength, but I think that mobility, sub-package guy, the toughness, he's going to be our RPO dependent, though, at the next level. So if a team really wants to utilize him, they're going to have to utilize the RPO ability of his game because that, to me, that is what I want to see out of him. I think the biggest thing for him, though, pocket presence and mechanics. If he can work on those things, stay more comfortable in the pocket, not be as erratic, then I'm curious to see what he'll do with good NFL coaching.
Yeah, and I mean he was also in the Heisman, conversation as well. So you can't overlook that, Jake. I think when you think about Hendon Hooker, I know he was in the run or before he got hurt for that Heisman race. So that's why I think he will go in the first round. I know you didn't vibe with it the other day, but I think he'll go. But whenever you're thought of as being a Heisman candidate, you got to look at that like, hey, this guy's a baller. I mean, he, like I said, Gatorade Player of the Year in high school, and then possible Heisman candidate. So that means when he goes to that next level, he's going to win football games. So I like to see him on a great football team with a great coach that can use his skills. And like when Taysom Hill went to the Saints, you had someone that Sean Payton that can really utilize everything that he brought to the game. And I think Duggan can do the same thing as well. So that's my next guy. My third guy, Dorian Thompson-Robinson. I feel like my man has 2 first names there, but 2 last names, it looks like. But with Dorian, he all-time UCLA leader with over 12,000 yards, 6'2", ran a 4.5, went to Bishop Gorman High School out in Vegas. Like, when I look at it now, when I see guys going to prestigious high school, I think that's big. When I see them going to prestigious colleges, that's big as well. If I'm looking at the NFL wins, because when they get to the NFL, the stage won't be too big for him, right? He's seen that big stage at a young age. So the fact that he's a leader at UCLA and breaking all the records there, he's gonna go to the NFL and break more records, Jake. So I think that's a big deal. I know he was 6th in the FBS in completion percentage, and coaches want to know, hey, can you protect the football? Can you make sure that my guys are catching the football, converting and scoring touchdowns? So I like Dorian as the other sleeper. To be honest, he might be my number one sleeper out of all of them. I went in the reverse order there. So I like Dorian as my sleeper. And I know he's super creative. He can run, he can pass, he can do it all. Jake, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so this is somebody I look at as a late round quarterback with some serious upside, because the thing about DTR that, he might be RPO dependent. He might not have the best arm strength in the world, though I think it's pretty solid. He might not have the best pocket presence, but when I look at DTR, something that I wasn't expecting, it was watching the tape each year of his career. It's just jump after jump after jump. Very intelligent, just seems to be developing and getting better each year. And, he's exactly what you want to see out of a fifth-year senior. It shows up on film, making better decisions. Even the previous year, 2021 tape, you're not seeing the same decisions he's making in 2022. And that's a good thing, because there are a lot of prospects in this draft that for whatever reason 2022 hit, and it was like night and day. 2021 was great. Their first rounder, on tape, regardless of position. And then 2022, I don't know what happened. That's not the case with Dorian Thompson-Robinson, who I have as a late, 6th, 7th round pick. I think he's very coachable. He's somebody that I think the UCLA players looked up to as a true leader of the team. And oftentimes we'll see with a running back who's quarterback who's a true athlete and can run, they get pigeonholed wide receiver, running back. I think he could be a quarterback, Cam. I think he can be, probably a backup quarterback with some upside. I kind of liken him a little bit to Bryce Perkins, what he went through transferring to Virginia, really put Virginia on the map. And then, he ended up being a backup for the Rams, kind of developmental guy. I kind of liken him to that, where I think if they continue, he goes to the right place, continues to be developed, then maybe he gets an opportunity to start. He's a spot starter. But yeah, I think he's, those three guys are certainly good picks. I also gotta say, with this class, if anybody gives you crap in the comment section, there's not a lot of quarterbacks to choose from, because we have about 4 or 5 guys who are constantly talked about in the media. So how can we choose any of those guys? So then you're really like slim pickings at that point. So
these are sleepers. That's why they call sleepers, Jay. This is the sleeping section right here.
Exactly. So my sleeper, okay, he is my 5th overall quarterback in the draft. I got a BYU quarterback. Before you run to the hills because Zach Wilson scared you off, I'm going to say this. Do not scout the helmet, scout the player. Period. End of story. Different player. Although Zach Wilson was a first-round talent, so I don't know why it's even bad if he looks like Zach Wilson. But anyway, the pocket presence is there. I think the issue with Jaren Hall is a little too patient in the pocket. But when I look at this guy, I don't know why he's not getting more respect, if or whatever. His athleticism is awesome. He can hurt you on the ground. But what I really love watching about Jaren Hall is how he's going to use his mobility to set up a pass. He wants to throw the ball. He's not a running quarterback per se. He's what I would call a dual threat, a guy that can hurt you with the legs, hurt you with the arm. And, I think he's really good with his feet set. Which is something that I'm starting to notice, these running quarterbacks, these mobile quarterbacks. Lamar Jackson's where I first noticed it. You have these quarterbacks that if they could throw on the run with accuracy, they'd be unbelievably dominant. No one would be able to stop them. But like the common misconception is that Lamar was more of a pocket passer, in the body of a running quarterback. So like that was his mentality. Like he throws better when his feet are set. With Jaren Hall, his feet need to be set. To me, seeing a guy that prefers to throw it more than run it and have that athleticism, that's a good thing. I think he could be a real franchise quarterback at the next level, Cam. I have a second round grade on him. He might need to sit a year, but even if he had to start, I think he could do it. My only concern, about him starting, he's making half field reads, not really going through the full progressions yet. That's something I think 1 year, in a system, either backing up or just training camp, mini camp, whatever, having a chance to really go over that in the film room, he'll get that down. But that's really the only thing right now. I feel like his floor is higher than being, given credit for right now.
Yeah, I like Jaren Hall, Jake. I like him. Even wearing that number 3, just the way he moves, I'm like, oh, the way he moves looks a little familiar. The way he runs that football, I know he had that C on his shirt, the captain. I think that's always big. So you talk about that second round grade, yeah, you jump into the character, right? I think a lot of times when you get high in the round, it's like, hey, what guy am I going to take? This guy or that guy? I'm going to take a guy that has better character. I know you talked about the Rams falling victim to the character piece, but
the 4 pillars.
the 4 pillars. But I think it's extremely important when you get to the NFL. I know we talked about some other athletes who won't last long in the NFL because of their character. And so I love to see that always. He is a running threat, which is great. He's the captain of his squad, which is great. And the way he moves, the way he takes hits, Jakes, like I said, it reminds me of somebody. It gives me a little Russell Wilson-esque, the way he escapes the pocket and the way he moves around. So I really like Jaren Hall. I do look at him as a sleeper as well. You have him going in the second round. So I hope it's not before Hendon Hooker, but I do see him going in the second round as well. I really like him, and I do think he'll find some success in the league. I know he's a little bit shorter, but so was the Drew Brees. So was the Russell Wilson. So are a lot of the quarterbacks in the league now.
So my comparison to him was a combination of Oklahoma Jalen Hurts, not Jalen Hurts right now in the NFL. That's not fair. But Oklahoma Jalen Hurts and Wisconsin Russell Wilson.
There you go. There you go. I see it. And they both were in that 3. So I'm like, yeah, come on. I like it. Give him the comp. Give him the comparison there.
So my next guy flat out destroyed the Senior Bowl. Now, he kind of reminds me of somebody I saw really play well in the Senior Bowl when I was out there in Mobile. He reminds me of Kyle Lauletta, who came out of Richmond. And now I understand people look, Lauletta wasn't the most successful quarterback in the NFL. Not like he's the least successful, but he's not a starter right now, right? So immediately when you compare guys to guys that aren't starters, people, whatever. He's not just that, though. I also see some John Wolford do his game. I see some Taylor Heineke. Jake Haener out of Fresno State, to me, when I look at his game, he is a 3rd-round pick that is a potential starter at the next level. He's a solid quarterback at virtually everything on the field. He doesn't have the most velocity, behind the football that he throws. It's good enough to fit into a tight window in college. I don't know if that translates to the NFL. I don't. Personally, I don't know. Everyone's comparing him to Brock Purdy. They're saying this guy's the Brock Purdy of this draft class. I think the thing that really stands out to me with Haener is his ability to take hit after hit. This guy's tough as nails. You're watching him get decked, and he comes up and he, the next play, he fires it just in a 3 guys in coverage, fits in between all 3, touchdown, things like that. He's going to fit a West Coast style offense. He's got some good mobility. I think the short and intermediate game is where you want this guy, living in. I don't want him necessarily going deep down the field because, for people that, remember, John Wolford when he had to start this past year or even, the years prior, he doesn't have the arm strength you look for in the NFL. It's not bad. Yeah. And if he's playing in the AAF like he did, and he was great with the Arizona Hotshots, which got him the NFL gig, it's good enough for the spring leagues. But in the NFL, you got these corners that can jump those, those plays and whatnot. I'd like a little bit more arm strength for sure. I think he's an NFL spot starter arm strength, which isn't bad. I think he's a number 2 this year, and he has a chance to be like a Taylor Heineke down the road.
That's not a bad comparison, Jake. Anything Taylor Heineke, anything Brock Purdy, I think underdog. I think someone who rises above expectation. I just believe that, for one, I played against Taylor Heineke in high school. Man threw for 4 touchdowns, X amount of 100 yards against us. So Taylor Heineke's a beast. We all know that. And even Brock Purdy, we talked about him on the 2 episodes ago. just what he brings to the table, Jake, Brock Purdy, as a 7th round pick. I mean, Mr. Irrelevant. And so to get those comparisons, those comps, that, you can't sleep on guys like this. And the fact that he got the Senior Bowl MVP, like, that's where you make your money, Jake. I played in the NFLPA Bowl, and so I did my best to show out in front of these scouts, and I'm a 6-foot tall linebacker, so I had to do everything that I could. And so the fact that he won Senior Bowl MVP with the best of the best, with you said you've been to a lot of Senior Bowls, right? So you're sitting next to there you go. You've been a couple, you've been to 3 of them. So you're seeing owners, you're seeing GMs, you're seeing everyone from the NFL at this spot, and the fact that when the lights are on, you were ready to go. And I think that can't be overlooked, Jake. So I love that sleeper pick. I think he's going to surprise a lot of people. And one thing I did see on the tape, I am looking at some of the information on him and some of the write-ups. They talk about his feet being slow or the ball not getting out of his hand quick. And I'm like, hold on. I'm seeing those feet get set really quick. I mean, it might just be his highlight tape or some of the things that I'm watching, but it seems like he gets those feet in the ground really quick. His 3-step drop is really sharp, and he gets the ball out of his hand. So, and I think you mentioned this, right? Or some of the write-up, but if you get someone to rush him and to mess his feet up, either to speed him up or to do something that he doesn't want him to do, he might be in trouble. But yeah, I mean, I like him. I like him a lot.
Yeah, I like him too, and I was happy for him to have the Senior Bowl he did, and I think Jared Hall, the guy that I talked about before, didn't really have the Senior Bowl I was expecting, but that's not the end all be all, because for every Carson Wentz that has made himself money at the Senior Bowl, for every DJ Chark that showed up and was outstanding in the Senior Bowl game or whatever, you have other guys that were bigger names and didn't do anything, and then they go in the NFL and they do something. So it is just 1 week. Keep in mind, the Senior Bowl is important, but you can have a bad week. I mean, one would argue, Baker Mayfield, he gets there, he takes the red eye, whole big thing. I think he was taking care of like his mom or something. So he gets there late, and there's all the sorts of reports like, oh, Baker doesn't care. He gets to the Senior Bowl late. He takes a jet. And it's like, we don't really know what guys are going through that week. I remember Colin Saunders, Super Bowl champion Colin Saunders, who I actually had the pleasure of interviewing multiple times. He was with the Kansas City Chiefs, just got paid with the Saints. Colin Saunders had a kid, and during the Senior Bowl week, I don't know if you remember this, but he wasn't going to leave Mobile. He's like, no, because I gotta make it. I gotta make it in the NFL so I could take care of the kid down the road. So, we've seen that. We don't know how the week's going to go. But one thing I do know is when I turn on the tape for this guy, Aiden O'Connell is a missile for an arm. I mean, the dude, it just throws absolute darts. And, he's coming out of Purdue. My comparison, because I don't have comps. If I don't feel it, I don't throw one out there. But I swear to God, it's like watching Jared Goff. You see the arm talent. You see, obviously, I know Goff was the number 1 overall pick in 2016, and that's a lot of pressure put on O'Connell. But just look at it in terms of the play style. He's not Jared Goff, but he has similar play style. Can hit that quick slant. He's got good placement. Very accurate in the short and intermediate game. I'd say Goff was a better deep ball thrower of the football, but they both had that, the way he moves even, kind of surveying the field. It's almost Goffian, if you will. But, he's got some big time throws he made in crunch time that shows up on tape. And, at the end of the day, he's a pure pocket passer who's got a quick release and he's got some serious zip on his pass. I think O'Connell, at the end of the day, is a backup quarterback who you take in the 4th or 5th round, and you marvel at his ability to be coached up, to develop, and then eventually I think he could start someday.
Yeah, I like that. I like the comparison there. You just think about his stature, just the way he sits in the pocket. He's tall, lanky. I wrote down in my notes, he's just savvy, right? Like you see some of the times his play action passes where it's like, oh, is he giving it off? Does he keep it? Is he keeping it? And so I like the way that he moves with his game, how he moves with his game. And I do think he's going to cause defenses some trouble, right? I can just see him window dressing, and you think he's going one way, but he's going the other way. I can see a lot of, you mentioned Jared Goff, a lot of no-look passes where, I've been in practice with Jared Goff, and he's looking this way, he's throwing that way. So I see that in O'Connell as well. And you mentioned him being a pocket passer. I see that as well. He's not going to really run and take off like the other folks that we just mentioned, but he's your pocket passer. As long as he gets the ball out of his hands, I think he'll be great. And one thing I do like about him as well is he throws his receivers open, right? He holds onto that ball
for
a little bit, but he'll find that window where if his receiver is in tight coverage, and he'll hit that spot right on the edge where the defender can't get it. So he makes NFL throws. When I saw him, I was like, oh, this guy's a pro. Just the way, like I said, he moves about the game. It seems like he plays from neck up, where everything is he's just really mental, really cerebral. And I can see him doing well in the NFL. Like you said, once he gets the coaching and once he gets maybe even stronger, maybe get a little bit faster to be able to take some of those hits. But I really like him as well.
I'm with you. And I think one thing that he has that I always admire is the ability to, stare down the barrel of a shotgun. And what I mean by that is when you're about to get hit, whether it's Cameron Lynch coming up the middle on a, inside linebacker blitz or whoever, you're still going to release that ball. You're going to wait, like you said, a second a little bit late, right? But it's the second that matters that allows your receiver to get open in a position where now, instead of being a gamble of a throw, now I know my receiver's going to catch it, and I'm going to use the ability, I'm going to basically layer it over the linebacker. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my wide receiver in the best position to succeed, where he doesn't have to turn around. The ball's just right on him, and the guy can just make the catch like he's Willie Mays or something. You know what I mean? That's what it's all about at the end of the day.
Yeah. No, I like it. I think he's going to do great, and I love the comparison for him as well. Jake, let's move on to the running back, shall we?
Absolutely.
Yes, sir. So, of course, for my running back, I got the shirt on, so I got to talk about my sleeper being number one. But Sean Tucker coming out of Syracuse, Mr. Amazing. My man broke Syracuse's rushing record with 1,496 yards. And mind you, though, having a running back come to Syracuse and break the rushing record is insane, because you got your Floyd Littles, you got your Ernie Davises, you got Hall of Fame running backs, legendary running backs that he is now in the rafters with. So Sean Tucker is my guy. Just watching his tape, of course, looking through some of the running backs and kind of figuring out, hey, who's my sleeper? One thing I do know, turn it on the tape, you'll see Sean Tucker sprinting down the field and the fans going crazy, right? He has that home run ability. He has the excitement factor that some of the other running backs just don't really have. And so that's what my one takeaway from Sean Tucker is. He has that home run ability. And my man is built like a tank. He's built like a tank, built like a linebacker, just the way he, his stature. I know he's only 5'9", a little bit shorter guy, but he's strong. His yak, it can definitely be improved, but it was excellent in college. One thing I do know as well is he can catch the football, my man. You will see in his game tape, Syracuse using him in tunnel screens, him breaking for touchdown. So he is my sleeper. And I'm a little biased because he went to Syracuse, but truly I do believe that he's going to go to the NFL and he's going to crush it. And I have down here too that he was the 55-meter dash champion, the indoor champ, 2-time state champ in college. So, like I said, he has that home run ability and that breakaway speed. So, Sean Tucker, my number one running back for a sleeper project.
So, I think with Sean Tucker, he's going to start out being a number 2 or number 3. I have him as a 4th round running back. I think when you look at what you want in a starting running back, he's lacking something that's very important, which is his ability to help in pass pro. He's not really going to offer much in that category. But I think he's somebody, if you need like that Energizer bunny, if you need that big play threat, if you need that receiving threat, I do have a little bit of concerns about his hands. He has some inconsistent hands. He has some concentration drops. But when I watch Sean Tucker, he's somebody that I think is going to be better with time. He might not be amazing right off the rip. I compared him to Tatum Bell. I don't know if you remember him, but he's got that speed that I saw with Tatum Bell. I think to me, until he gets better in pass pro, he's not going to be a 3-down back. But we've seen guys can make a living without being a 3-down back in this league and even be household names. Like, think about Tony Pollard. He's basically sharing time with Ezekiel Elliott up until this year, where they finally move on from Elliott. But Tony Pollard is a household name. He's one of the best running backs in the league, and he's not even playing all 3 downs. So,
there you go.
I think as long as he gets more consistent on the snap-to-snap basis, I think he could be something, really good in this league. And this is a really good class of running backs. So it was hard for me. He fell, probably in the middle for me. Like I watched 32 running backs. He fell around like the 16, 18, category. So I'm not as high on him as you are, but, I respect him. I respect his game. I respect that you like him, of course. I have other guys that have higher grades, but I think Sean Tucker's interesting. And if he goes to the right system, it'll be very fascinating to see how he's utilized, because like I said, there are some things to his game that, he struggles with, but you can't teach speed.
Speed kills, man. You can't teach speed. And when you're that strong and that fast, like, hey, it's a win-win. And you talked about not being great on 3rd down. I do Bleav that, when it comes to protecting your quarterback, you got to be able to pass, a pass block. Like, pass pro is extremely important. We talk about the health and safety of the quarterback, and we talked about this with Saquon Barkley. We have someone that we know that can protect the quarterback on 3rd down. It's a passing down. People who don't really know, 3rd down is passing down. And so when you have your running back in on 3rd down, you're going to expect him to either pass block first, chip protect, and then go out for a little swing route or something like that in one-on-one. So Sean Tucker, for him, like you said, to start or to even step on that football field, he has to figure out how to protect that quarterback. So what I say in the offseason, if he's hearing that right now, hey, make sure in the offseason, make sure you have a couple people blitz you and block them like their life depended on it, right? And so when you get to training camp, you're able to display your skill and figure out like, hey, I'm that guy. So Sean Tucker, he's my number one. My next one, there's a lot of tanks in this draft, Jake. There's a lot of guys with the name of Tank. This one is Tank Bigsby from Auburn. He's ran a 4.5, 6 feet, 6 feet tall. Anytime you got a 6 foot running back, it's a problem, Jake. Tackling a guy that big is tough. It's not a Derrick Henry. He's not 6'5", right? An anomaly, but a 6 foot running back, it's always going to be tough. Ran a decent 40, ran a 4.5, which is okay. One thing I do like about him is he knows how to get north and south. He's not afraid to get north and south. And I think a lot of times when coaches coach up running backs, they say, hey, stop that dancing and make sure that you get north and south. So that's one thing he does really well. I know a concern is his hips. He's not as elusive as we want him to be. The wiggle is not always there, but he does get north and south really well. And another thing too, I know he's not great on 3rd down. So Sean Tucker and Tank gonna have to work on their 3rd down pass pro, because a lot of people are taking note of it. And this is a passing league. And so to be able to survive as a running back, you're gonna have to be able to catch the football well and protect the quarterback in the pass game. So those are my thoughts on Tank. It was cool to see his film and watch him tear it up. I know he was co-SEC freshman of the year, so he has some juice to him. And I'm curious to see what he's going to do in the NFL. What are your thoughts on Big Tank?
See, I like Tank. I had him as a late 3rd, early 4th round grade. I think he's somebody is a pure one cut back at the next level. Like you said, he's going to have to work on his pass protecting ability and his hands as well. Very consistent. My biggest issue with him, 6 fumbles in 3 years. I don't like, averaging 2 fumbles a year like that. That's something that worries me a little bit. He's more powerful. Like he's not necessarily a guy that's going to truck you, so to speak, the truck stick like everybody talks about. Yeah. But he's a bowling ball, like kind of, he runs a little bit. He's not quite like, Zach Stacy, but back when, the Rams drafted him out of, Vanderbilt, he kind of reminds me of that bowling ball, maybe like a CJ Anderson, a little bit, like not quite. But, he's got solid hands. It's just, I want to see more consistency with those, because again, snap to snap consistency. But I like him. one cut runner, and I think he's got good contact balance and has the ability to fall forward and pick up that first down if need be.
Yep, there you go. That's it. Falling forward. And you want your running backs to be falling forward. I think a goal for defenses is to make sure that they're going the other way, right? Our coaches always used to tell us as a defensive guy is make sure that running back is they call it ass to sideline. Make sure his ass is facing the sideline or facing the other direction, because therefore he's not gaining any positive yards. So that's spot on there with Big Tank. And then my next one, we got another, bigger running back a bit. This guy, we talk about comparisons. He's been compared to Melvin Gordon. I don't know if he's as fast as your Melvin Gordon, but Zach Evans out of Ole Miss. I love the way he finds the edge, Jake. I knew one thing when you cut on his tape, he is getting to the edge of defenses. And as you know, Jake, I've on our Bleav and Ram podcast, I've beat this into the ground. But defenses have to have an anchor. And if you don't have an anchor, people are going to get on your edge, right? It's a soft edge. That means guys like Zach are going to find it. And so one thing I do know about football is it's a game of angles, and he finds great angles on defenses. And so you'll see him starting to run in the middle of the field, and then him bouncing it outside because the receivers get great blocks, and then he's on the edge, and then he's running to the house. So I like his ability there. He went to North Shore High School in Houston, and Texas is football is king out there. So he won back-to-back state titles out there. So he won early. I think that's big. I won a state championship in high school as well, and I still talk about it to this day. So he's going to have some juice to him, and going to Ole Miss and playing in the SEC, he's gotten hit, Jake. He's seen some defenses. He's seen some boys. So the fact that he's able to find success against SEC defenses, I like him. So he'll be my sleeper as well. I know some of the issues that he has, of course, is injury prone, and being a running back in the NFL, availability is the biggest thing. We always talk about it. Can't make the team in the cold tub. So him staying healthy, that's a thing. And then also protecting the football. We talk about Sean, some of these folks, Tank, having two fumbles a year. It's tough. Playing running back, it's a tough life out there. So similar to receivers, having drop balls, you're going to have the running back who sometimes won't protect that football. And being in the SEC, you got some boys out there, Jake, who are going to force some turnover. So that's a concern for him as well. So he'll have to work on that ball protection, get some extra curls in to hold that ball tight.
It's weird for me because Zach Evans, who I have as, definitely a day 2 prospect. I think probably goes, round 3. But, agile, ability to stop and start. I think the issue is he bounces too much to the outside. I don't think he trusts his blockers enough, or his vision, one or the other. But, to me, when I look at him, I see a guy with long speed that's going to last in the NFL. I see a guy who's a pure runner that eventually can start. My biggest issue with him, and I would say he's potentially the best pass protector we're going to talk about, because neither of my 3 guys can really protect the passer. But he's probably the best pass protector we're going to talk about. His vision's very inconsistent. And another thing with him is that while you mentioned his ball security, it's weird because he never had this issue. And then he transfers to Ole Miss, and now he fumbles 3 times. And I know there's a pressure, Judkins, who basically took over as a starter. I mean, he basically got benched, right? Judkins, who's probably going to be, a stud, probably going to go in the top 2 rounds whenever he comes out, maybe even the first round. I understand, there's been some pressure there. It hasn't all gone great for him. He wasn't really utilized in the receiving game, though. So I think he can be utilized more as a receiver at the next level. I think he's going to be a better pass protector. I think he was just kind of in a position where, like I mentioned with Judkins, like you have that, you're not the guy, you were the guy, you're not the guy, all sorts of, mixed signals going on there, but he's pretty bursty, overall, again, 3rd round pick, I would say, and a future starter at the next level.
I like it. So let's hear. I know we're coming up on time here, so I know your running backs. That might be it. But curious to hear yours as well.
Yeah, so I got Keaton Mitchell out of East Carolina. I think when you look at Keaton Mitchell, first off, running back East Carolina, you immediately think of Chris Johnson,
Yeah.
because he was just a freak of nature, how fast he ran. But incredibly explosive guy. This guy ran a 4.3. Keaton Mitchell is so fast. But what is so fascinating? He's not big. He's like 5'7", a $179. It doesn't matter. He doesn't fumble. I don't have to worry about that. Everyone says, oh, the size. I don't really care. If the size isn't resulting into fumbles, then I don't really care. And my next player, I'm going to bring that up too. He's a great route runner to the point where I would say he qualifies as a receiver at the next level. Like if he can't be a running back, if a team is worried about him taking on those punishments, then I think he can work as a receiver. He's not going to help you at all in pass pro because, like I said, in case you didn't hear me, he's 5'7", a $179. But he's got great ball security, like I mentioned. Bursty, has that long speed where the home run, you can kick into a third gear. Man, that guy looks like he's running a 4.1 flat on tape sometimes. I mean, just when he gets ahead to steam, he's gone. He's got the agility to boot. He's got the awareness. I think he's a very good, as far as vision, I think he's fantastic. He's somebody that is going to be probably not your starter because he's 5'7", a $179, but he's that RB2 we talked about earlier. He's the RB2 that will be a household name. He's going to be like Tony. I'm not saying he is Tony Pollard. I'm not saying he's that type of style. That's not my comparison for him. But he's going to be like Tony Pollard in that he goes to the right scheme, situation, whatever. He'll be that gadget guy. He'll be remember Dexter McCluster, remember Dree Archer, guys like that. Those hybrid wide receiver running backs. They didn't end up being super big. I think this guy can be really big. I actually have a second round grade on him. And wow. I think he is a starting football player. I don't think he's a starting running back, but you can put him all over the field. Keaton Mitchell, East Carolina. I think people are sleeping on him. I'm way higher on him than the consensus. He's a sleeper, and he's not going in the second round. You could probably get him in the 7th. People are really sleeping on this guy.
Okay, big sleeper, Keaton Mitchell. Write it down. Yeah, you mentioned excitement factor, cutting on his tape, pure excitement. One thing you mentioned it, catching out of the backfield. This man can catch the ball in the backfield, and I think getting him in space, that's going to be the offensive coordinator's bread and butter. Hey, if Keaton's in the game, get him in space so he can make moves. You mentioned a starting football player. Guys like Keaton, you can get him on special teams, returning punts, returning kicks. That's going to be bread and butter for guys like this. So when they're doing stuff like that on special teams, they can work their way up into that starting role. Like, hey, this guy is productive not only at the running back spot, but he can also do multiple things. So I can see him, like you said, that maybe that third down back, catching the ball out of the backfield, converting first downs, and also on special teams as a returner on both phases, on kick return and punt. And another thing, too, he likes to find the edges. He finds open space, he's gone. Once he gets on that edge, if that receiver is blocked, he is out of there. So I like him as well. I said he's shifty. That's something I got in my notes as well. He'll find the open lanes. He's not scared to run up in the middle. I know we talked about some of the other running backs who want to find the edge and don't really trust, their blockers like that, but he does. So it was cool to see his tape and watch him go as a 5'9" guy. And Jake, I mean, I got him. He kind of reminds me of one of the players that I've seen in the Super Bowl, actually. He's a little bit shorter, but you talk about Boston Scott, a nifty, a shifty guy who can get to the edge. Boston Scott might be 5'5" or 5'4" or 5'4", but Boston Scott is a baller. Like I said, Boston Scott's on your punt return. He's on your kick return. He's doing all the dirty work. And then when he does get in that running back, he makes it happen. So I do like this pick here.
Yeah. Well, first off, I'll say this right now. Boston Scott is not a bad thing. If he ends up being Boston Scott, if you draft him in the second round, you want him to be a little bit better, right? But if they, you get him in the 7th round, he's Boston Scott. Well, you, my friend, have found value because not every 7th rounder makes the roster. Because there are guys like you that are going to knock him off the roster.
That's true. That's true.
Think about that. So, that's something to keep in mind. My next name here is somebody I did my 1 minute scouting report on. and Brees Hall retweeted it. It's
Nice.
Deuce Vaughn,
Yeah.
Kansas State. This guy is just fireworks, electric. As a Kansas fan, I should hate him. I don't. I love the guy. I think he is so much fun to watch. And as somebody who's 5'8", even though he's 3 inches shorter than me, hard to believe anybody shorter than me, but even though he's 3 inches shorter than me, like I vibe with those short guys, but at the same time, this is like, we're talking about the same type, right? Guy that can play wide receiver in the NFL, guy that can run the ball. Is he going to be a starting receiver at 5'5"? No, he's not. Our running back at 5'5"? No, he's not. If he was 3 inches taller and a better pass protector, he would easily go in the second round. But I don't know where he's going to go. I don't know how teams are going to value him. What I do know is that there was a certain player that was 5'7", or 5'6", that came from this school, Kansas State, and Darren Sproles, and he made a living as just a utility guy, right? And I think that is what you're getting with somebody like Deuce Vaughn, somebody like Keaton Mitchell. I mean, this is a league now. This is where these guys can actually succeed.
Yeah.
This is a league where you have the running back room is now a running back by committee approach. It's not just, one guy. It's not a bell cow league anymore. It's a running back by committee league. And so I think he works out in that regard. Doesn't have the size, but he can get skinny. He can knife through the trenches. Something that you just don't see. His feet are so damn quick. You'll be there and then you'll be gone. He's way by you already. The guy has explosiveness. The guy has the long speed. He's a quick processor. When you see 5'5" guys that are that confident, I'm going to beat you running through the trenches. Put that guy on my team. That's all I can say.
Yep. And I know too, in your notes, you had him compared to Tariq Cohen, right? So when you have a Tariq Cohen who is very dangerous also in the special teams game, if you got guys like Tariq Cohen returning punts, that strikes fear in the punt team's heart. I played on punt teams. I've had to cover Tariq Cohen. It's like, oh snap, guys! Like Tariq Cohen's back there, so like we have to figure out how to net him and like not let him go anywhere. Guys like Tyreek Hill, people with like dangerous speed and dangerous quickness, they strike fear in the other team's hearts. And so Deuce Vaughn, he will be a fear striker for sure. I like Deuce Vaughn. Like you said, he's 5'5". I have in my notes stud. This guy's a stud. He can run in between the tackles, outside of the tackles, no fear. This is a guy with no fear. Deuce Vaughn. I'm looking forward to seeing him at the next level.
Yeah, I am too. Another guy I'm looking forward to seeing at the next level. We'll wrap it up here. Xavier Valade out of Arizona State. I don't know what it is with these Arizona State guys. First, my guy, Kalen Ballage, I saw at the Senior Bowl. He had a great Senior Bowl. All anybody was talking about was Rashad Penny. Then the next guy, Rashad White. I'm like, guys, we need to be talking about Rashad White. People are sleeping on these Arizona State running backs. I compared him to Rashad White. I think he's very similar. I think he can help you as a receiver. I think he can help you as a runner. He's got the lateral agility to turn the corner easy. He's got great long speed, good leg drive. He's not a power runner, but he's going to keep his legs churning for a guy that's a smaller back. He's not super small. I have him listed at 6 feet, 200 pounds. But he's patient behind his blockers, uses some of that Le'Veon Bell patience that, made him so fierce as a runner. Tends to run into traffic a lot. I don't really love that. He, shy away from contact when you're not the biggest guy in the world. Not saying he's the smallest, but, and then the ball security is certainly an issue, but I think he's a receiving threat. I think he's explosive. And while he does run a little too high, there's just too many things I like about him. His good overall vision, spatial awareness, etc. This is the sleeper that might go undrafted, that might, just keep banging teams over the head. Whoever gets him knows how to use him.
Yeah, he's very smooth. I know we're wrapping up here pretty soon, but for him, and my note is he's smooth. He has a different gear. He can change gears. Some folks can't change gears. He can change gears. He's a Xavier Holiday. Looking forward to seeing him at the next level as well.
Absolutely. So we'll wrap this up here. We got to have our featured NFL player. Throw that in at the end. Luke Kuechly, my God, he is one of the greatest linebackers of all time. In case you don't know, he did unfortunately retire early, but fortunately retire early because you retired early and you're intact. You feel good. Yeah. You're lively. You got to focus on that health aspect of it. But he is a future Hall of Fame linebacker, Luke Kuechly, 2025 Pro Football Hall of Fame eligible, 5-time first team, 7-time Pro Bowler. He's already part of the Hall of Fame 2010s team. He He played 8 seasons with the Carolina Panthers, was drafted number 9 overall in 2012, and started 118 games, 18 interceptions, a touchdown, 66 pass breakups, 7 forced fumbles, 12 and a half sacks, and over 1,000 tackles. This guy was an absolute baller, and I miss him in this league.
I do too. One of the smartest guys that I've played against and had the pleasure of learning from as well. Some folks come from the Panthers and they came to the Buccaneers and they say, hey, this guy Luke, he knows all the secrets. He knows how to get to Tom Brady. He knows how to do things that other people don't do, coaches, etc. So Luke Kuechly, what a guy. Happy birthday.
Absolutely. So that's going to do it. This has been episode 4 of Off the Edge, and tune in next day and we'll be talking about some more stuff, but you guys take care and we'll see you guys soon.